Greetings, you are watching Dugin's Guideline. September 5th can be called the Day of Revolutionary Terror, an ominous date. On this day, in 1793, the French National Convention officially declared the Reign of Terror, which was allegedly necessary to defend the gains of the revolution. In the 20th century, on this same date, in 1918, the Bolshevik Council of People's Commissars, clearly playing off of historical reminiscences, proclaimed the beginning of the Red Terror. Both events are logically connected. In both France and Russia, radical revolutionaries who came to power represented a narrow minority of the population. These revolutionary elites were without a doubt passionate, hyperactive, and ruthless. But the most important point is that they thought of themselves as a force endowed with an historic mission. They were the creators of the future, and in the name of this future, they ruthlessly destroyed the past. The revolutionary dictatorship of the Jacobins and the Bolsheviks were dictatorships of time that cruelly cracked down on the past and even more so on the eternal. Both the French and Russian revolutionaries saw themselves as the strong hand of progress, modernization, and development, destroying the passive resistance of tradition. In both cases, the terror had the same structure. This was the terror of bloody modernity, ferociously and ruthlessly arrayed against tradition. The victims of the Jacobins and the Bolsheviks were representatives of all three traditional layers of European, or more broadly, Indo-European society: priests, the warrior aristocracy, the noblesse headed by a king or tsar, and the peasantry. These three social groups made up the axis of European societies since the time immemorial. Despite the fact that Christianity had brought faith in a new God, in the true God, Jesus Christ, it did not disturb the eternal system of the Indo-European tradition. The French bourgeois revolution and the Russian proletarian revolution were brutally aimed against all three classes. The first was carried out in the name of the rebellious bourgeoisie, mobilizing Masonic fanatics and cults, while the second revolution was done on behalf of the urban proletariat, which practically did not exist as any kind of significant social force in Russia in the early 20th century. Rabid, fanatical and maniacal groups of revolutionaries representing the small nation in Augustin Cochin's sense unleashed terror against almost all of society wherever they managed to seize power. The Jacobins and Bolshevik terrors were genocide against the popular majority in France and Russia. Bloody madmen of progress, democracy, and communism drowned entire countries in blood to defend their criminal ideology. The point of revolutionary terror was not only the destruction of the people, but its intimidation. Henceforth, one could only believe in modernity and its myths: liberty, equality, and fraternity, the Masonic triad, positivist science, and secular authority. Anyone suspected of sympathy to tradition, religion, caste society, or the aristocratic system of values was brutally destroyed. God was declared non-existent. The priesthood was subjected to extermination in both Russia and Vendée. The aristocracy, especially those sympathetic to monarchism, but overall the entire aristocracy, were outdone. As for the peasantry loyal to ancient traditions, they were transformed into an urban populace devoid of kind roots and the custom of their ancestors. With certain reservations, modern Europe can be recognized as the fateful result of the French Revolution. The Masonic values of the bloody Jacobin terrorists are today's values of European Union. Europe is only tolerant towards those who recognize its anti-Christian, anti-traditional, and modernist and postmodern norms as the ultimate truth. But if someone really dares to stand up for tradition, for the Indo-European heritage, the Church and the eternity, and challenge the modern world, then the truly Jacobin, revolutionary nature of modern Europe immediately makes itself felt. Accusation of fascism immediately fall. However, Hitler's Nazism was simply another version of revolutionary terror, typically European and modernist in its character, as Hannah Arendt has shown. As long as Europe lives in the shadow of this Masonic anti-Christian ideology, then it cannot change. The bloody shadows of the revolution keep Europe in their clutch, once and for all, shoving European civilization down into the abyss. But in Russia, the bloody sign of Bolshevism has not been eliminated completely. It is only natural that Red Terror had a truly Russian dimension as well. The alienation of the elite from the people was so great that it gradually accumulated an inner hatred by the majority of Russians for the pro-Western elite, which sometimes related to its own people as if to a subjugated, enslaved local population. But the leaders of Red Terror professed an absolutely non-Russian ideology taken from the West and directed against the deepest and most sacred foundations of the Russian soul, against its bright Christian path. Some fiery Russian patriots saw in the Red Terror a revenge of the underbelly of native Rus. The great Kluyev wrote that the Red Assassin is holier than the chalice, and called on the Red Army in the spirit of the radical old believers. Let's burn it all, brethren. But later, all the national Bolsheviks paid dearly for their visions of a Soviet Rus. After all, the Red Terror was none other than a phenomenon of the modernity, and it destroyed tradition. Until we understand this and call things by their names, we cannot get rid of the bloody embrace of the past and move forward to a fully fledged Russian future. All the best! You've been watching Dugin's guideline on revolutionary terror. Both the Jacobins and the Bolsheviks crowned their reign of terror with the desecration of churches, regicide, and the overthrow of tradition. But God, Tsar, and tradition are the eternal roots of our identity. The dividing line is drawn here. So, who are you for? Decide for yourselves.